don't go to the beach.
Oh,
That's
happy
not
birthday.
that, that's not a thing, man. Black folk don't go to the beach Memorial Day.
What are you talking about?
That's not what we do.
Yeah. Okay. I'm
Are
trying
you
to
going
get
to the
down.
beach?
Yes, because I'm a part of the elite, the
Oh, you going
bougie
to the
arist,
vineyard? Is that what you're trying to
the bougie I can't even say it. Aristocratic, the aristocratic bougie black folk who hang out at the beach.
I hear you.
And yes, no, I'm not doing the beach. I mean, well, we may. So my older daughter's coming up, and with her
Okay.
new husband, and so
Oh,
his
nice.
family. Yeah, so they want to do the
That's
beach.
awesome.
So I mean, but you're right. Typically, you're right. We don't really do the beach Memorial Day. That's a little bit later into the season for most of us. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to a kind of nice little chill. There we go. We're on Facebook. A nice chill little kind of Memorial Day experience.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so today, dear friends, we are kicking off a day of healing on WURD, Remembrance and Healing, I should say. You can actually tune in throughout the day. You will hear a number of our shows dealing with the subject of the death of George Floyd a
Hmm.
year ago today.
Hmm.
There'll be special panels and all types of informative and inspirational conversations. And even on our show today, we will have later in the program a former Minneapolis City Councilman who's also a member of the clergy in Minneapolis to give us, kind of a feel for what it's like to be on the ground in Minneapolis right now. A lot of us, we talk about it all the time, but you always want to really just kind of know, like, what's really happening there. So, what is your sense of kind of where we are, looking back now a year later? A lot has happened. There's still a lot more to do, but kind of as you look like big picture or small picture, how are you kind of understanding this moment?
I think um, because there has been a uh, Derek Chauvin's already been tried. He's been found guilty. We know his sentencing is coming up soon. We know that there are now going to be civil rights violations done against not only him but also
Mm-hmm.
against all of the officers that were involved in that particular case. The trial for the other three officers is coming up soon. There has been a settlement paid out to the Floyd family. I think that there's a sense that in this particular case, and I'm just talking about his case because,
Mm-hmm.
we have to remember it wasn't just uh, this wasn't just a George Floyd thing. This was also a Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor that occurred at the same time, right around the same time frame. Um, that there is still work that has to be done in other areas. But I think with regard to George Floyd, I don't think people feel like again, I go back to what Attorney General Keith Ellison said. This isn't necessarily justice, but it is accountability. And so
Mm-hmm.
there was a sense of accountability beginning in this process and perhaps modeling what needs to happen in the rest of the country when it comes to the issues of police overreach and extrajudicial killings. So we are in a place right now where we're able to look at this. We're able to see some things that are happening, and then there are other cases that we're still waiting to see what's going to happen, and praying and hoping that there's going to be accountability in those circumstances as well. It's a hard loss, right? And
Yeah.
it was just very difficult and painful just to be able to watch for 9 minutes and whatever seconds it was for Derek Chauvin to do what he did. And I think it was a stark reality for all of the nation, including those that would defend the police in some circumstances, that maybe the police aren't always right, and that
Mm-hmm.
they have to be held accountable for their own actions as well.
Yeah. So ditto to that, and I would add this that it is so within the movement space. Sometimes what frustrates me is like somebody will do a study and all of a sudden that study gets published and this is the new evidence. This doesn't work anymore, right?
Hmm.
And so we got to move away from that. So a couple of years ago, people were literally talking about trying to fight to end body cameras. on police officers within the movement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, yeah, research has proven that when cops wear body cams, they're actually more violent because they feel like the body camera is going to prove that they weren't doing anything wrong. I'm like, okay, so I guess you can almost make both arguments in the Derek Chauvin case, in that he knew his body cam is on, and yet he sits there and he kneels on George Floyd till he dies, and he feels like he didn't do anything wrong. But by the same token, there would have been no conviction.
That's right.
Had it not been for, I mean, now, if the only thing we had was the camera footage of the young, she was a young girl at the time, young woman now, if that's the only footage that we had, he's not convicted.
Right.
Because, you know, we know what's going to happen, right? Come on, well, Your Honor, I mean, jury, you can't see everything else that's happening behind the car and over here. And yes, I know it looks one way, but there's multiple ways of looking at this. I mean, consider the Rodney King case, for example.
Right. Absolutely.
But the body cam footage is ultimately what really helped convict Derek Chauvin and will likely lead to the convictions of his friends and bystanders who should have stepped in to stop him. So, so for me, I'm also, because I think, the hat wearing, the hat that I'm wearing with Live Free, Power Live Free, and kind of constantly in these conversations about police accountability, thinking about the logistical part, the logistics of this and the technical pieces that we have to do and implement to ultimately hold people accountable.
Yeah, that's actually really wild that folk would think that. Actually, it was all the cameras. It wasn't just the body cams. It wasn't just the camera of the young lady. It was also that overhead camera that was above the street that the 911 operator was watching and calling a supervisor and saying, "You better get out there. This doesn't look good."
Yeah.
I think it's all of that. So I think it is important that we have those cameras, that they're in place, and that they're being used as a vehicle. I mean, it could also be said that the bystanders caused Derek Chauvin to be more violent, right? He was being, arrogant at that point and, trying to make his point. But the reality is that none of those things should cause him or any other police officer to become more violent. They should become more vigilant about what they're doing and how they're behaving and acting in public. Yeah.
Meanwhile, here locally, about a week or two ago, I don't know if we ever talked about this on the show. I may have mentioned it briefly, but it's an important part of the conversation today. And this is the continued denial, primarily from the white community, about what actually happened. But there are actually not a lot, but there are some black folk who subscribe to this as well, that what happened to George Floyd is basically his fault because he wouldn't stop resisting.
Oh, please. That's ridiculous. Who said that?
A lot of people do. I'm going on Donald Trump. A lot of people say, a lot of people say, like, who said that? Well, a lot of people. But no, they do. And so here locally, a good friend of ours, Rashad Grove, who pastors, what is the name of Rashad's church?
First Baptist Church in
it is First Baptist in Wayne.
In Wayne, yeah.
Right. So First Baptist in Wayne, which is a predominantly African-American congregation. I preached there for him before. Rashad has been a part of a lot of our demonstrations and protests through the years here in the city. Dynamic young guy and his family. So he had in his church, now mind you, the church is, it is in the cut. This is not like out on Lancaster, Pike. This is in the cut. You got to be going there to find it.
Right.
And so they had a little small sign and it just says Black Lives Matter on their marquee.
Right. Someone
took the time to deface it, but in a very mainline kind of way. That's what I like about the main line. They're not like, they're not your run-of-the-mill white supremacists. Someplace they would have burned this church down, but no, what they did is they wrote in hand on 3 pieces of like literally like paper out of somebody's binder. Stop resisting arrest, and then taped it right underneath Black Lives Matter. They didn't even cover the Black Lives Matter up. They wanted it to show as a contrast, and that the argument has been continually, that the only reason that George Floyd was killed, or a David Jones who was shot in the back here in Philadelphia, or a Dennis Plowden, or a Brandon Tate Brown, or on and on and on, Eric Garner, you just kind of throw the name in there, is that if they had only complied, that they would not have died. And you think about how idiotic that is, in that of all these cases, you have a man who is literally lying there, unable to resist, calling for his mama, and yet they will not get off of his neck.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And so the neighbor's answer to Black Lives Matter is just stop resisting arrest.
And then how many of these incidents have we seen where people were not resisting?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, bro, if you lie there, it seems they don't stop. If you run away with your hands up, running away from them, they don't stop. I mean, this is kind of the point. And so it is either, strict ignorance or willful ignorance or willful blindness. I'm not sure which one it is in the case of many of these people, but yeah, it's just, man, I don't know. I mean, sometimes it just leaves you speechless. We got to take a quick break, and we come back. Hopefully our guest will be on. He is on Minneapolis time, Reverend Herron out of Minneapolis, former member of City Council and local pastor, to just kind of get a sense of what's going on the ground in Minneapolis on today, how people are remembering George Floyd, what's the mood in the city. We really want to know. And also from those of you, put in the chat on Facebook or on YouTube how you plan to remember today if you're doing anything special, and hit the share button as well. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. It's the Power Hour.
Hi, this is Philly Congressman Brendan Boyle, reminding you to please get your COVID-19 vaccine. Remember, the vaccines are free, safe, and the best way to protect you and your loved ones from COVID-19. And if your vaccine requires a second shot, please don't skip it. It's just as important as the first. If you want more information, you can email me at brendanboyle@mail.house.gov. Remember, Philly, our best shot at beating COVID is through the vaccine.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Do you have what it tastes to solve Herr's flavor mix mystery? One chip, 3 classic Herr's flavors, thousands of possible combinations. Pick up a bag of Herr's flavor mix mystery and make your guess online today. Your guess could win you $10,000 and a year's supply of Herr's. Visit Herr's on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more info on how to enter. Solve the mystery. Break out the Herr's. No purchase necessary. Legal residents of the 50 United States, D.C., 18 years of age and older. Ends 8/31/21. To enter and for official rules, including odds and prize descriptions, visit campaign.rtm.com/Herr's flavor mix mystery / void where prohibited.
Buying something from a dealer just sounds a bit, well, put it like this. My cousin Ray Ray got arrested for buying something from a dealer. So why would you want to buy your car from a dealer? Hi, everybody. This is Nick inviting you to buy your next car from Jerry over at Cardex. See, they're not dealers. They're like a car concierge service. They design a car around you. Almost any make. If it's not on the lot, they'll go out and get it for you. So use my car concierge, where I've already bought 4 cars. Cardex at 116 East Glenside Avenue in Glenside, Pennsylvania. Check them out online at cardexinc.com or call Cardex at 215-886-3230.
Tune into Reality Check, hosted by Charles Ellison, Wednesdays at noon for Tech Life Steph and the latest digital tips of the week. Brought to you by Comcast.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We're here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions. And we have plenty of them. Today, WURD Radio is doing special broadcasting on the time to heal and in memory of the 1-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd. And so joining us this morning on the Power Hour is the Reverend Brian Herron, who is the senior pastor of Zion Baptist Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's a former city councilman in the city of Minnesota, and he's a clergy leader with Isaiah, which is the sister organization to Power, in the state of Minnesota. Reverend, welcome, and thank you for being here with us early in the morning. I know it's real early your time, so we appreciate you getting up to do this. How are you?
Good to be with you. I'm well. All is well.
Good, good. Rev, there's been a lot going on. We've watched over this year, not only what happened in Minneapolis, but there's also been incidents in towns nearby. And I'm just sort of curious, what's happening on the ground right now? What's the mood today as you head into a series of activities?
Right. It's somber, and yet it is. I don't want to use the word celebratory, but it is an occasion that we don't want to have to remember, but we must remember. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that makes this a little easier to breathe is the conviction of Chauvin. Mm-hmm. And so we got accountability, and we have 3 more officers to go.
Yeah. Can I ask you, so let me just ask you, I've been raising this question a lot on the show lately. Now that we have somebody on the air from Minnesota, what's up in Minnesota? I mean, really, I've always envisioned it as such a nice place, right. But these horrific stories about Black people being treated by the police, it just seems so out of character with the way in which the state is portrayed in the rest of the country.
Well, I think that there's always been a false narrative about Minnesota, particularly Minneapolis, St. Paul, of being a liberal state, liberal cities. This is not new. As we know all across the country, what we're seeing is not new. This is what the African American community in particular has been saying for decades. And it fell on deaf ears, and it's only because of the witness of the cameras that now it's being proved true. But at the same time, we are seeing an opportunity now for real transformation of policing, for greater discussion, deeper discussions about policing itself, and how we all come together to reshape, reimagine, and transform policing so that there's more community involvement and then rebuilding the trust. So I think that there's always been a false narrative about Minnesota. The Minneapolis Police Department, from the time I moved here in 69, 70, was one of the most brutal departments in the nation, and has always been up until this Chief Arredondo, who is making great strides and great efforts to really transform the culture of that department.
Let me ask you something, Rev. There's Isaiah is actually, and I guess other organizations too, are working on new legislation to actually create a new Department of Public Safety. How does that play out in the process of moving forward from the killings of George Floyd? How does that move forward in terms of trying to bring about a new concept of policing for a new concept of public safety, I should say, for the city of Minneapolis?
It has some merit. It doesn't have full support. And one of the reasons why is because this comes at a time when we have a police chief who wants the same thing we want. Mm-hmm. And he's probably been the most disrespected chief that we've had in this city. We saw his stellar character on the witness stand. And he is that kind of person and that kind of chief. And so that comes with some angst, because there are those of us who feel like He's been very disrespected, that there haven't been conversations with him, that it is clear that all of us want transformation and want to change policing. That's not a question. The question is the methodology of how we go about that. And so there's still discussions about, is that the best way to go?
So let me ask you about this, because we're deeply involved in that here as well. So I'm sure that we're part of sister organizations, your organization there, Isaiah, and ours, Power here. So we've been working extensively around real police accountability, taking the control as much as we can away from the mayor's office and trying to have some independent civilian oversight. And so it seems like the movement space is kind of torn between two extremes, right? Both that are deeply dissatisfied and want something totally different. But within that, there is we don't want any police at all, ever again, no kind of public safety. It's just, the community elders work out disputes. And then those on the other end, which is like, yeah, we feel that, but that's not really workable in cities of our size. Are you all having similar tensions even within those who all want to see something different?
Absolutely, brother. I mean, we've had an escalation of violence like we've never seen in this city before. And have really been over, particularly these last few days, engaging with our chief and others, trying to figure out how we deal with this violence. We know it's a community problem, but we also know that we're going to need police to help solve it also. And so I think the tension is that you got communities that are saying, we need the police. We don't like the way they act, and we want that to change, but I can't see not having them. And then you got others who are saying, let's just defund them and let's figure out another way to police our communities. And so the tension comes from the rise of violence, the escalation of violence within the community itself, and the gun violence, where we have 3 children shot, and one succumbed to her wounds, and we got 2 that are fighting for life that they haven't barely lived yet. And so it's balancing what's going on and what's real with what we can imagine, and how do we do that?
Wow. That's a lot. I mean, I think that's a challenge probably for all the major cities across the country right now who have experienced this increase in violence over the last year, especially with COVID and people kind of people out of work and locked down in homes and not really being able to move about. So that certainly is a bit of a struggle. I wonder if I could switch gears here for a minute and ask you about what's happening on the ground today. Are there specific activities and memorials and events going on in Minneapolis commemorating this day?
Absolutely. There are activities going on at the George Floyd Square, which is over on the south side, 38th in Chicago. So there's activities going on all day there. Other folks are hosting some things. It's being kind of overshadowed by, the death of one child and the need for the community to mobilize and escalate as the violence is escalating. And so the pastors have come together over on the north side, and have really begun to mobilize the community to put bodies out on the blocks. We've identified all the blocks through the shot spotter and through what we know, and putting bodies out there. And so you got several things going on in this city all at one time, but everyone is certainly commemorating, if you will, the death of George Floyd. And I think that this brings an opportunity to try to fuse and bring together everybody so that we can be in one accord and figure out what's the next move as far as policing goes. So there'll be plenty of discussions. There's celebrations. There was a huge rally type celebration Sunday with George Floyd's sister and Al Sharpton and Ben Crump were all here, and that took place downtown. So it's been all weekend, actually, and I think it culminates today.
So Reverend Herron, and we're talking again to Reverend Herron, pastor of one of the local churches in Minneapolis, if you're just tuning in, giving us an update on really just kind of the mood in Minneapolis on today, the 1-year anniversary of the killing of George Floyd. So, like, personally, so as a pastor of a congregation for a number of years, former city councilman, obviously you've had your share of trying to kind of hold things together for other people during COVID, which alone is just, crazy, having to just preach through that. And then you add this to it. All of us have been impacted by what happened in Minneapolis in ways that called us into greater service, but you are right there, ground zero. Have you had time to just kind of, at some point this year, stop and even reflect on what it has meant to you? Or have you just still been in that mode of checking boxes, doing one task to the next before it kind of comes crashing down? Because I would imagine at some point this hits you.
It has hit me very hard. I can't remember crying so much and agonizing, over the condition of our community, over what happened to George. I've watched that video so many times that I have the same reaction as if I was watching it for the first time. So personally, taking time to just sit and be still and know that He is God, and to make sure that I am, healing. I think healing, the call for healing, is more apparent now, and more people are more receptive to it now because of the conviction of Chauvin. And so my position in the city right now is to create healing spaces where people can really begin to heal and to bring in community healers and have these spaces. And we're going to use our church as one, and then we're thinking about other spaces where we can really do some healing work. Our folk we're a community full of broken hearts and trauma, and healing is probably key right now to moving forward.
We are speaking to the Reverend Brian Herron. He is the pastor of Zion Baptist Church in Minneapolis, and just kind of giving us a sense of what's on the ground right now in Minneapolis. Real quick before we let you go, Rev, so help us understand also what's going on in your neighboring city there, where Daunte Wright was killed. How does that factor into this larger story?
Of course, this situation with the police is in every city in Minnesota. And so with Daunte Wright, there have been some successful meetings with the city council and the mayor. And they're making moves to do some things with their police department. There's going to be pushback from the police themselves, but I think that they're heading in the right direction. The shame of it is it takes the death of a young man for people to begin to recognize that something is wrong. How many people do we have to lose before we realize the madness of some of the officers that we have hired to do policing in our city. And that's the issue. The issue is that we have to do a better job of vetting officers. This is playing in because now you have people, we are focusing our attention not just in the city but in Brooklyn Center, and activism. The activists have been out there. We have been out there. And so we hold those families, man, and we sit with them and try to bring them comfort. And we are challenging the city politics out there. But so far, we have had small victories in Brooklyn Center. Their city council and mayor have moved in a way that I think is going to help the people really begin to start moving forward out there.
Well, listen, bro, we appreciate you getting up this early and all that you have been doing in your community in Minneapolis, Brooklyn Center, and that entire metro area of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Reverend Brian Herron, who is, again, like right there in the middle of it. We appreciate hearing from you. I know our listeners do. I'm looking at social media. Just read you one quick comment from Judge McCabe, who's listening. She said, "We're a community of broken hearts." That part for her that you said. So praying for your healing there, and anything we can do in Philly, just let us know. Appreciate you sharing the Power Hour with us on today.
Brother, thank you so much for having me. God bless you all.
Take care, Rev.
We got to take a quick break on that, and we'll be right back in a few moments.
Hey folks, WURD members are invited to tune in every second Tuesday of the month with me, Nick, for a chance to win a book bundle of the newest releases from Kensington Publishing's culturally oriented Dafina imprint.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still honoring that WURD 10% discount. Give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
Clark Roofing Company has over 30 years of quality roofing experience, providing exceptional customer service, honesty, and professionalism. Clark Roofing is a second-generation master roofer, installing top-quality roofing systems for commercial and residential properties across the tri-state area. For fast, dependable service, call 215-365-ROOF. That's 215-365-7663.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by Staples Stores. Some volume getting busy southbound 95 this morning. Coppin down through Bridge through the work zone again. Betsy Ross through Girard getting slow there. Northbound side looks good. Westbound by Delays Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. Schuylkill westbound Broad to pass Young, a little further that construction. Then again, Lake City after Belmont eastbound. Not bad yet. Southbound Boulevard Route 1 delays from Broad to Fox through that work zone. 55 north out of Jam from Deptford into 42. Staples Connect has big savings on tech gifts up to $100 off select PCs like the Lenovo Flex 2-in-1 laptop with i5 processor. In-store only. Offer ends 5/29. Limit 2. Explore your local Staples or staplesconnect.com. Staples Connect, the working and learning store. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We are kicking off WURD Radio's Day of Healing as we remember the anniversary of the death of George Floyd today. We were just talking to the Reverend Brian Herron, senior pastor of the Zion Baptist Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a former councilman in Minneapolis, and also a clergy leader with Isaiah, which is the sister organization to Power in the state of Minnesota. Appreciate Reverend Herron getting up, it was 5:20 a.m. his time when he got on with us. And so taking the time out, and I know he's got a very long day today with programming and activities that are happening all across the city of Minneapolis. So, yeah, it's just a heavy situation. It is, our hearts, I think, are still weighed heavy as a result of remembering what happened 1 year ago. And even though there has been accountability, it still doesn't bring back George Floyd.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, I testified along with a lot of other people about the new Citizens Police Oversight Commission, CPOC is what we're calling it. And it was about a week or so ago. And I remember, you know, thinking about it. So the last time I testified before council, as I was starting my testimony, you know, that's when my daughter interrupted me and told me that Walter Wallace had just been killed, like an hour, not even an hour before. She'd seen it on Instagram. And so then to fast forward to the hearing, you know, this month, as we're preparing to, you know, get rid of the Police Advisory Commission and bring in something that's a little stronger, and we hope that we'll have some teeth and budget and staff. You know, I started the remarks that day with this, that we can never forget that the only reason that we're even having this discussion right now, and that CPOC is about to be a reality, and that we're about to go from a budget of $500,000 for oversight, quote unquote oversight, to more like 13+ million in, you know, one fell swoop, is because it cost George Floyd his life.
True.
It cost Breonna, we don't, you know, today we're focused on George Floyd, but likewise, it cost Breonna Taylor her life. We don't have the video there, which is why, you know, again, you know, I think the big difference is having the video of George Floyd, watching it agonizingly for what we thought was 8 minutes, 46 seconds, turns out to be 9 minutes, 29 seconds, which is worse. And so that all of these advances for us always seem to come at such great cost.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we should also say not just that, but it's also Walter Wallace too, right? That really,
of course,
that really helped propel this. And I hate to say help propel, because that you should not want to think of somebody's death as helping to propel anything. But certainly that is what is, you know, propelling Philadelphia to take a really hard look at accountability and transformation in public safety and policing.
Yeah, and so we asked, you know, what people are going to do on today, and if you, and maybe you're not doing anything different, but however you are, you know, thinking about this day, you can post that in the chat on Facebook or on YouTube as well this morning. And but yeah, I mean, man, do we need new laws? We need to overturn this entire, you know, thing, this entire system, and reestablish it in the right way. As he said, I mean, think about this is, when you talk about American policing, this is generational. Do you remember the movie Colors?
Yes, I do remember the movie Colors. That was what was it, Robert Duvall and one of Madonna's husbands, Sean Penn.
Sean Penn. Yeah. So remember they play LA cops, and very stereotypical portrayals of black folk. I mean, just over the top stereotypes.
Everybody's a gangbanger. Everybody's a gangbanger.
Yeah. But you know, but the thing that's really striking about that is, again, you kind of get a sense watching that, even thinking about it now, so many years later, having seen it, you know, then just how you walk into a culture of policing and an attitude that people who come in may be optimistic, thinking, you know, I want to serve my community, I want to help make things better, I'm here to protect people. And quickly, you know, you're told that's not the job. You know, it's kill or be killed. It's them or us. It's blue or black. Make up your mind right now. There is no middle ground. You know, if you ain't with us, you with them. And then if you with them, you by yourself. Don't call us when you get in trouble. I mean, just these stark, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, you know, we think that it's like one election can change this, or changing the police chief. He talked about the chief in Minnesota. Right. I got to believe the FOP hates his guts now out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he got on trial. I was like, yep, he was wrong. He shouldn't have done it.
He got up there and testified against one of your cops. That's like that's the third rail.
Well, I think one of the things interesting is that that particular police chief they have now is a man of color. And I think that is part of the challenge as well. And so I understood what Reverend Herron was saying when we actually said we have a police chief now that wants our goals. However, I think we also discovered that police systems it's not just a chief that can make changes.
Right.
It's a culture, and that's a harder change to make.
Right. So Lola on YouTube, says that today she's going to do a lot of reflection. She'll be in some Zoom meetings about changing laws. Robert Garland on Facebook says he's praying today. Some deliberative, intentional prayer. I like that. Is focused. Tawanda actually is going to participate in her first Truth and Reconciliation Commission meeting as a commissioner. Wow. I guess that's out there in Lancaster.
Carlisle.
And Carlisle, okay. And then then Judge McCabe is just stuck on you saying one of Madonna's husbands.
Yes.
I mean, I just gotta throw that in. Yeah, Sean Penn, also known as one of Madonna's husbands. I'm sure he'd be happy with that. But yeah, I mean, listen, this is a heavy day, and yet by the same token, I think what we should all recognize is that, as Reverend Herron said in the beginning, that while it is somber, there is a bit of a celebratory feel to it, because unlike in the past,
right,
where cops have done this and walked away, this dude is in jail today.
Mm-hmm.
And he don't get to walk around right now. His friends are on their way to jail. And that there are other officers, I want to talk about it, we don't have time today, the ex-head of the Bordentown Police over in Jersey, Chief Nucera, who is also facing jail time for civil rights, hate crime violations.
Wow.
And he still got, this story happened about 4 or 5 years ago. I remember talking about it when I first started doing radio. And so it was back in the paper today. He's facing his sentencing. And but he also has another couple of trials out there, including one where he allegedly struck a black teenager while handcuffed.
Oh, wow.
He was the chief of police.
Oh, wow.
And it may not be Bordentown, so don't quote me on that, but I want to say it's Bordentown. But this guy was like talking about, by other cops' own admission, mowing down black protesters and black.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
That ain't Minneapolis. That's the Philadelphia region.
Yeah. So I know that there's some things happening across Philadelphia today. Later on today at 5:30 p.m., Labor for Black Lives will be having a rally at City Hall to be lifted up. I saw Deborah Robinson asking the question, what's Philly doing today? I'm aware of that piece that is happening. Mm-hmm. And I know that, others of us there's a lot of work going on right now. Live Free's been doing a lot of powerful work around policing and trying to lift up, this new notion of police oversight here in Philadelphia. Tomorrow is a town hall meeting that's taking place. That's at 7 p.m. tomorrow.
Yes. So we can talk about it extensively tomorrow. It's the second town hall on shifting the narrative, in particular of how the media covers gun violence.
Right.
And there's a lot to cover.
Right.
But that's tomorrow.
And we should also say that on the radio station today from 1 to 2 p.m., there's going to be a special broadcast called Our Mother's Garden, a conversation with the 3 generations of artist, activist, warrior women, Sonia Sanchez, Ursula Rucker, and Kai Davis. And that's going to be hosted by our president CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese. And then today from 5 to 6, a special broadcast called Soul Survivors, Black Men Nourishing Mind, Body, and Spirit. And so we want to invite you to listen into all those broadcasts as a way of healing. Part of the resistance to white supremacy and white oppression, ultimately at the end of the day, is your own healing and your own taking care of yourself. As Audre Lorde said, rest is resistance. And so we need to be able to do that as well.
Oh, I like the fact that that our CEO Sarah Lomax Reese said she's going to handle that one. That's like a great panel, but that's when it's good to be the boss. You see that panel? She's like, yeah, I'm going to moderate this one. Sonia Sanchez, I got it. I got it. Excuse me. It's good to be the boss. Amen. Yeah. That's going to be a great panel. I love Sonia and everyone else that you lifted up as well. Hey, folks, I'm telling you, that's all we have time for today. But again, on tomorrow, we will dive deeper into that the panel discussion. Maybe get Denise James and Elder Melanie DeBose to call in and talk about what we can expect, as a lot of journalists will be on that panel talking about, we're trying to challenge them to think differently about how they report out on Black death.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, that's the Power Hour for the day. We appreciate you checking us out and being here with us on today. Thank you to everybody that's listened to us through the radio, through the app, through YouTube, Facebook, through Alexa. Alexa, turn on the Power Hour. We appreciate you deeply for being here, part of us. We thank the Reverend Brian Herron, Senior Pastor of the Zion Baptist Church of Minneapolis, former City Councilman in Minneapolis and clergy leader with Isaiah, for being here with us early in the morning to talk about what's happening in Minneapolis right now on the ground. Stay tuned for the day's activities, the special broadcast of a day of healing as we remember the death, actually not just the death, the murder of George Floyd. You stay tuned now for Wake Up with Word with Solomon Jones. And listen, family, do us a favor of all days. Go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.
Just in case I